paddling with the parents. As a teenager, I considered both of my parents to be smart. They seemed smart, certainly smarter than me most times. Then I got in a canoe with the two of them together. It was on Juniper Springs Creek that feeds into the St. Johns River over on the east side of Florida. My great uncle Hent had a cabin at Astor near the river, and the Ferrell family vacationed there a lot because it was free. Mama called it a cabin. It was a fish camp trailer, but it did have AC, comfortable beds, and good linens. Besides having a free place to stay, Astor was a nice area to vacation because it is centrally located to enjoy not just the St. Johns River, but also Ormond and Daytona Beach, 30 miles away, the Speedway, plus all the springs and activities in the Ocala National Forest. This was back in the mid-70s. I was about 15, and it was before the yellow canoe, but about the time I picked up canoe fever. My older sisters were 19 and 21 and had vacationed at Astor before, but by this time they had finagled their way out of family summer vacations. I was on my own with my parents, which had its ups and its downs. We'd been cruising the St. Johns River in Papa's sportscraft boat, the Lemon Drop. It was too summer to fish, so we'd been spring hopping and exploring, stopping here and there along the way. At a riverside marina stop is where we heard about Juniper Springs Creek and the canoe rentals. It came highly recommended and sounded a lot like the Chutney, which we loved, so a trip to Juniper was planned for the next day. Back then, there wasn't a website that said Juniper Springs Run was for experienced canoers. Neither did the canoe rental guy give us much instruction other than he'd see us at the takeout. It was a 7-mile run, crystal clear water, but it went through what was mostly swamp. I had paddled a canoe at camp, but neither one of the adults in the boat had ever paddled one before. They were more boat and motor type people. Juniper was much wilder than the Chutney, but for the most part, we did fine navigating the spring run, even as inexperienced canoers. We'd stop in shallow, sandy spots to get out and cool off and change places. But after about 5 hours in a canoe together, conditions began to deteriorate. There were some rough spots and lots of low-hanging limbs. Mama had gotten into something of a snit because she was riding in the middle seat facing backwards, while I paddled in the front. And when we passed under low limbs, I ducked, and then Papa warned Mama there was a limb coming up behind her by saying goose instead of duck. That was his way. He loved to pun. She did not get the joke and got knocked in the back of the head by limbs repeatedly. So after some discussion, we changed places, so I was riding in the middle, facing backwards, and she was up front paddling. I knew what goose meant. It meant to duck. Near the takeout point, the Juniper Springs runs spreads out into a marshy area, and it's easy to take the wrong channel. It came to a point where there were 5 channels, and Papa picked the wrong one, and the creek narrowed to nothing until we were dead-ended. There was nothing but tall, freshwater marsh grass in front of us. At this point, I'm going to start calling these 2 people in the canoe with me Tommy and Warren instead of my parents. So we were dead-ended, and Tommy blamed Warren for the wrong turn because whoever in the back is driving and in control. So he took the fall. What are we going to do now? They asked one another. Nobody asked me anything, and I kept quiet because I was sitting in between a married couple having a discussion. Can't turn this dad-blamed thing around in this little creek, Tommy said. Warren agreed. No way. This is a 16-foot boat and a 3-foot creek. Maybe we can push it up in the grass and get it turned around, Tommy said. Might be gators up in the grass. Warren agreed. Tommy struck a match and lit a Marlboro to help her think, and we three sat there in the canoe. I sat quietly in the middle, wondering why in the Sam Hill they didn't just turn around in their seats and paddle us out of there. Why did they feel the need to turn the canoe around? I kept my mouth shut as long as I could before I suggested it. They both sat silent a moment before Mama said, Dad, blame it. Papa's turnaround was awkward because there was nowhere to put his feet, and he was long-legged. But little limber Mama turned around easily and started paddling us out of there fast. Wasn't long before we got back to the main creek and saw the canoe guy's van waiting in the distance. They laughed at themselves for years about trying to turn that canoe around, but Mama never did figure out what goose was meant to me. This is their birthday weekend. Papa was on July 2nd, Mama on July 5th, and back then we usually celebrated both on the 4th, often on vacation at Astor. Warren and Tommy divorced decades before they passed away, but to me, this will always be their weekend, along with the United States of America. Happy Independence Day.